actions and initiatives. In fact, a lot of marginalized women who are enrolled with organizations like Women for Women International have overcome their grievances, and now they own businesses. They send their kids to school. They are economically independent, and they have access to their basic needs. I always say that war has two sides. One side we always discuss in the newspapers and in our coverage of war in Canada, which is the frontline discussion. We talk about war, from the trunks and the tanks, and the planes and the bullets, and the killing and the soldiers. And that's one aspect of war. It's true, it happens, we all feel it. But there is another aspect of war that we really do not discuss as much as we should discuss. Sometimes we don't discuss at all. That's a backline discussion of war, and that has everything to do with life. How do you keep life going in the midst of war? When I started my communication with Zainab Selby, founder and CEO of Women for Women International in Washington, D.C., when I started reading her field reports from war-torn countries, I started to have a different perception about war and peace. War for me is about Sudanese woman that I read about in one of Zainab's field reports. When she was asked what does war mean to her, that woman walked for 18 years in her life in southern Sudan. This woman who was from southern Sudan, who walked for 18 years and never slept in one place for more than 5 nights, because a couple of times she was kidnapped and became a sexual slave, where she was raped as much as the soldiers wanted, and she carried their ammunition, water, and their food for them. So when she was asked what peace meant to her, not war, she thought for a second and she said, "Peace means I have toenails." She did not have toenails for 18 years when she walked. Peace is simple as having a toenails. We need to understand war, and we need to understand peace from the toenails perspective, because at the end of the day, this is what we are talking about. It's not only about fighting, because when it's about fighting, then peace is as simple as signing a peace agreement, and it's not. It's about how many lives we can improve. For example, the invasion on Iraq in 2003. A woman from Iraq told me that America has come to somebody who has been in a coma for 35 years. And the first thing you ask someone who just woke up from a coma is not what kind of democracy you want or you want to vote for. It's what you want to eat and what you want to drink. And unless we ask that question, we are missing out on what peace means. And that's where women come. It's perhaps the most unfair thing to be cornered or pigeonholed as victims of war. We are victims. We are victimized in a major way in wars. 90% of modern war casualties are civilians, 75% of which are women and children. 80% of world war refugees are women and children. And the only group of people who are leading the backline discussion of how to keep life going are women, yet we do not hear their voices. I find it amazing that the only group of people who are not fighting, not pillaging, not raping, not burning, or not even creating rebellious groups, and they are the ones who actually keep life going, are not included at the negotiation table. I really find it amazing. We really need to understand what war means from women's perspective, because at the end of the day, that's what we are dealing with. And I say that not only for ideological reasons, I say that for pragmatic reasons as well. Women are the bellwether for the progress of the society. Violence often starts through women, and progress often starts with women. There are many examples. Look at Afghanistan and look at the Taliban. The first act of violence they committed were against women, and everyone looked on the other side and said, it's just women, it's their culture, or whatever it is. If we look at Iraq, the first act of kidnapping, raping in 2003 actually were against women within just 2 months of the invasion. And everyone looked at the other side of and said, it's just women, it's trafficking, it's normal. We need to look at women as bellwether for society. We also need to notice that progress starts with women as well. Women are also standing on their feet, and they are keeping life going, perhaps for many reasons. Their resilience, their courage, but also because they have children and they have to keep life going. And in that case, investing in women becomes a national interest. If I want to talk about Rwanda, it's one thing to say 500,000 women got raped in 100 days. That's true, and it's not an unfair tool, but you cannot say stop the discussion on Rwandese women, because 13 years after the Rwandese genocide, 49.9% of Rwandese parliament are women, 50% of all ministries are women. Every single ministry has a gender budget, including the defense ministry. And you ask the president of Rwanda and the Rwandese society why you are doing this. They say, we cannot build a strong country without the full inclusion of women in every single decision-making process. There is no way where one can build strong democracy, strong economy, and strong peace without the full inclusion of women. We are now living in the era of the streets, because the streets in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, Rwanda and Congo, and other places as well, are dominated by extremist groups who are giving the rice sack. They go to a widow in a place like Iraq or Afghanistan, and they say, here is a rice sack, give us one son and feed the 7 children. And every single widow is having no choice but to choose the rice sack. It's not an ideological support of extremism, and unless we compete at the rice sack level, unless we say, here's a rice sack, but we're gonna teach your kids, and we're gonna help you find a job, we are losing this war in every single way. We need to compete, not by fighting over the arms and weapons. We need to compete in the street by actually helping people eat. And that's what I'm trying to do when I started Women for Change in Windsor, and in this campus, Women for Women International inspired me to bring their society to this community. My first step is to register Women for Change as an official Canadian NGO. Then me, Dr. Rosanna Vitali, Omar, and Marianne will start officially linking Canadian women with their sisters in war-torn countries. Also, we're trying to build connections and raising awareness locally to get more supporters and sponsors. Dr. Vitali will establish her center in Montreal, and we can include her skills in helping women survivors of war to stand on their feet. I know it's a long journey and a difficult journey as well, but I have faith in this cause, and I have strong intention to help make this world a better place for all of us. I will end my speech with Rumi, the Sufi poet. Beyond ideas of right-doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. So let's all meet in this field, and let's all be part of this change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hiba. Now I'd like to call up Omar Haddad. Never mind.
There is no safe place. When they got a letter, it was like a miracle.
Can you just read the music, please?
15 years ago, Bosnia was in the midst of a horrific ethnic cleansing. The killing would last 4 years. Rape was a weapon of war. As many as 50,000 women were raped and tortured. Many held captive in rape camps for months. Zainab Salmi, a young Iraqi woman living in the U.S., read about the war and watched as the international community failed to respond.
Having lived in Iraq, I know what it feels to be in war. And you feel isolated, and you feel the world has forgotten about you. And it was my personal responsibility to do something about it when I could.
Newly married, Zainab and her then husband, Amjad, took the money they had saved for their honeymoon and went to the Balkans.
I was 23 years old at the time. I wanted to do something to help